All right. Check mic 1 2 1 2. Check mic 1 2 1 2. All right then. So what's up, everybody? This your girl Tiffany coming through live in effect right here on the StreamYard. So tonight I decided that I wanted to do something before I go to bed, and I want to talk about the history of hip hop music. So today is the anniversary of hip hop, right? Um, which is August 11th of 1973. That's when hip hop was born. So it's been around for 47 years. All right. So what I want to do is I want to show you the images of the earliest form of hip hop and how it became, how it made its transition. So let's look at one of the images first. All right. So right here, this is the earliest form of hip hop. Okay. So back then, they was out there on the street corners, you know what I'm saying? Everybody was, getting their little disc jockey together, got their fan around, everybody standing around playing some good old music. All right, hold on, let me put up another image for you. And you can't forget, everybody had their little boom box. That's LL Cool J when he was young, when he first came out on the scene. So that was very popular back then, the boom box and all that. All right, and let me post one more image. Okay. Well, two more images, actually. Now, James Brown played a pivotal role in the hip hop culture. James Brown and Gil Scott Heron. So they play a pivotal role, right? And then that's African Bambaataa right there. And that's cool DJ Kool Herc. So, yep. All right. And these are the picture of the hip hop artists, right, from back in the day all the way up to now. Okay. These are the various form of hip hop artists. Most of them are in the new age era. Okay. Brother, I wish I knew how to freestyle, but I'm not good at freestyling. Yeah. Yeah, my freestyle game suck. I cannot freestyle for nothing. All right, but let's go ahead and get to the origin of what hip hop is. HIP, wait, HIPHOP, hip hop. All right, see now there's your little freestyle right there. Okay, here we go. So the origin of hip hop music, or what we call hip hop as a culture. Okay. Check this out. Hip hop, or hip hop, is a culture and a art movement that was created by African Americans, Latino Americans, and Caribbean Americans in the Bronx, New York City. The origin of the name is often disputed. It is also argued as to whether hip hop started in South or West Bronx. While the term hip hop is often used to refer exclusively to hip hop music, including rap, hip hop characterized by 9 elements, of which only 4 are considered essential to understanding hip hop musically. Africa Bambaataa of the hip hop collective Zulu Nation outlined these main pillars of hip hop culture, coining the term rapping, also called MCing or MCing, a rhythmic vocal rhyming style, orality, DJing, or turntablism, which is making music with record players, and DJ mixer, all sound and music creation, b-boy, beat girl, break dancing, music, dance, movement and dance, and graffiti, which is art. Other elements of hip hop subculture and arts movement beyond the main four are hip hop culture, historical knowledge of the movement, intellectual and philosophical, beatboxing, a percussive vocal style, street entrepreneurship, hip hop language, hip hop fashion and style, among others. The fifth element, although debated, is commonly considered either street knowledge, hip hop fashion, or beatboxing. Okay? Then it goes on to say the Bronx hip hop scene emerged in the mid 1970s from neighborhood block parties thrown by the Black Spades, an African American group that has been described as a gang, a club, or a music group. Brother sister duo Clive Campbell, aka DJ Kool Herc, and Cindy Campbell additionally hosted DJ parties in the Bronx and are credited for the rise in the genre. Hip hop culture has spread to both urban and suburban communities throughout the United States and subsequently the world. These elements were adopted and developed considerably, particularly as the art forms spread to new continents and merged with local styles in the mid 1990s. Subsequent decades, even as the movement continues to expand globally and explore myriad styles and art forms, including hip hop theater, hip hop film, the fourth coherence and a strong foundation for hip hop culture. And hip hop simultaneously a new and old phenomenon. The importance of sampling tracks, beats, and bass lines from old records to the art form means that much of the culture has revolved around the idea of updating classic recordings, attitudes, experiences for modern audience, sampling older culture and reusing it in a new context or a new format is called flipping in hip hop culture. Hip hop music follows in the footsteps of earlier African Americans rooted in Latino musical genres such as blues, jazz, ragtime, funk, salsa, and disco to become one of the most practiced genres worldwide. Okay. Oh, interesting. In 1990, Ronald B. Stinger Savage, a former member of the Zulu Nation, is credited for coining the term six elements of hip hop movement inspired by Public Enemy's recording. The six elements of hip hop movement are conscious awareness, civil activism awareness, justice, political awareness, and community awareness in music. Ronald Savage is known as the son of the hip hop movement. I'll come back to that later. In the 2000s, with the rise of new media platforms such as the internet and music streaming service, fans discovered and downloaded or streamed hip-hop music through social networking sites beginning with MySpace, as well as from websites like YouTube, World Star Hip Hop, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Okay. So what we know is that hip hop, from the historical information, right? From what has been told previous, early on, it started in South Bronx. So, and hip hop had its trend in different genres. So it's a combination of reggae, right? Jazz, blues, R&B, funk, and even some African sounds. Of course, which where reggae come from? It all comes from the African, sounds, African music, right? And it blend in together with the bass line. So you got the 808, which is the bass that creates the sound of what we know today as hip hop. And then we're gonna get into the 5 elements of hip hop and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and continue on. All right, so let's look up the etymology. Etymology: Keith Cowboy Wiggins, a member of the Grand Master Flash, and the Furious Five, has been credited with coining the term in 1978 while teasing a friend who had just joined the U.S. Army by made of words hip hop, in a way that mimicked the rhythmic cadence of marching soldier. Cowboy later worked the hip hop cadence into his stage performance. The group frequently performed with disco artists who would refer to this new type of music by calling them hip hoppers. The name was originally meant as a sign of disrespect, but soon came to identify this new music and culture. So when people use the term hip hopper or hip hop back in the day, it was a sign of disrespect. It was a sign of making fun of the kids who were into this genre, right? So let me tell y'all something. See, hip hop was the renaissance of the 70s, right? It was like the Harlem Renaissance of the 70s, but except that it was in the Bronx. So it was given a new identity, a new lifestyle, a new attitude for youth. But then let's go on. In 1979, okay, the song Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang, released in 1979, begins with the phrase "Stop." Low put out disco rap music. Bill Alder, an independent consultant, once said there was hardly ever a moment when rap music was underground. One of the very first so-called records was a monster hit, "Rapper's Delight" by the Sugar Hill Gang on Sugar Hill Records. Hip hop pioneer and South Bronx community Starsky as the first to use the term hip hop as it relates to the culture that popularized the term. The first use of the term in print was in a January 1982 interview of Africa Bambaataa by Michael Holman in the East Village Eye. The term gained further currency in September of that year in the Village Voice, in a profile of Bambaataa written by Stephen Hager, who also published the first comprehensive history of the culture with St. Martin's Press. Okay, can you hear me? Hold on. Can you hear me? Okay. Hold on. Let me see some. Okay, somebody saying that they couldn't hear me, so okay. All right then. So I hope you guys got the last statement. So basically, what I was reading at it was African Bambaataa was the former leader of the Black Spades, and he did an interview with the Village Voice regarding to the culture and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's go on down. So Jamaican-born DJ Clive "Kool Herc" Campbell pioneered the use of DJing percussion breaks in hip-hop music. Beginning at Herc's home in a high-rise apartment at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue. The movement later spread across the entire borough. On August 11, 1973, DJ Kool Herc was the DJ at his sister's back to school party. He extended the beat of a record by using two record players, isolating the percussion breaks by using a mixer to switch between the two records. Kool Herc's sisters, Cindy Campbell, produced and funded the back to school party that became the birth of hip hop. Herc's experiments with making music with record players became what we now know as breaking or scratching. All right. So it started off where DJ Kool Herc had a house party. Him and his sister had a house party. They was doing a back to school party. And so what he would do is when he was doing it, what's it called? The round tables, right? Or the disc jockey. That's what DJ stand for, disc jockey. So he would put the thing on the needle and then take it off the needle and then, put it back on the needle and, scratch it and all that good stuff. So that's how the art form came into place. And that, based off the house party, just a house party alone, it became the birth of hip hop. Right there in someone's house. So, when you got the little, the sounds mixing in old school music together, scratching this, that, and the other, it giving it a unique sound. And by him being Jamaican, right, he blended in some form of reggae music behind it as well. So you gotta remember there was some reggae influence in the hip hop music. So yeah, so that's where the birth of hip hop came in. Right there, started at a house party. All right, so let me go ahead and continue on. A second key musical element in hip hop music is MCing, also called MCing or rapping. MCing is the rhythmatic spoken delivery of rhymes and wordplay, delivered at first without accompaniment and later done over a beat. This spoken style was influenced by the African American style of clapping or capping, a performance where men try to outdo each other in originality of their language and try to gain the favor of the listeners. Okay, the basic elements of hip hop, boasting raps, rival poses, groups, uptown throwdowns, and political and social commentary were all present in African American music. MCing and rapping performers moved back and forth between the predominance of toasting songs packed with a innuendo, and a more topical, political, and socially conscious style. The role of the MC originally was a master of ceremonies for a DJ dance event. The MC would introduce the DJ and try to pump up the audience. The MC spoke between the DJ song, urging everyone to get up and dance. So now today we call that the hype man or the hype girl. So that means that somebody that get on the microphone, get the whole crowd hyped up and everything, get them, like what in the South we say get them crunk, but get them all energetic and get them into the call and response. That's what the MC did. That was their original job back then. So, but now we call them the hype man. So now the MCs have become the rappers. All right. So, the MC spoke between the DJ songs, urging everyone to get up and dance. MCs will also tell jokes and use their energetic language and enthusiasm to rev up the crowd. Eventually, this introducing role development into longer session of spoken rhythmic wordplay and rhyming, which became rapping. All right. It says by 1979, hip hop music had become a mainstream genre. It spread across the world in the 1990s with controversial gangster rap. Herrick also developed upon break beat DJing, where the breaks of funk songs, the part most suited to dance, usually percussions, bass were isolated and repeated for the purpose of all night dance parties. This form of music playback, using hard funk and rock, formed the basis of hip hop music. Campbell's announcement and as exhortations to dancers would lead to the was it syncopated? Yeah, syncopated rhymes, spoken accompaniment, now known as rapping. He dubbed his dancers break boys and break girls, or simply b boys and b girls. According to Herrick, breaking was also street slang for getting excited and acting energetically. So you gotta remember, um, the purpose of the break, right, was to give the opportunity to get the crowd hyped up. And not only that, the dancer would come in and start dancing, get down on the floor. So that would get the crowd all energetic and very enthusiastic and things like that. So, yeah. All right. Right there, that's DJ Kool Herc. That's him. He's considered as the pioneer of developing the hip hop music. All right. All right, so let's skip on down. Street gangs were prevalent in the poverty of the South Bronx, and much of the graffiti, rapping, and b-boying at these parties were all artistic variation on the competition and one upmanship of street gangs. Sensing that gang members' often violent urges could be turned into creative ones, African Bambaataa founded the Zulu Nation, a loose confederation of street dance crews, graffiti artists, and rap musicians. By the late 1970s, the culture had gained media attention, with Billboard magazine printing an article titled B Beats Bombarding Bronx, commenting on the local phenomenon and mentioning influential figures such as Kool Herc. The New York City blackout of 1977 saw widespread looting, arson, and other citywide disorder, especially in the Bronx, where a number of looters stole DJ equipment from electronic stores. As a result, the hip hop genre, barely known outside of the Bronx at the time, grew at an astounding rate from 1977 onward. Ooh, all right. All right, here it is. DJ Kool Herc's house parties gained popularity and later moved to outdoor venue in order to accommodate more people. All right, so as you can see, it goes into like different hip hop groups that came about afterwards. One guy said Tony Tone, a member of the Cold Crush Brothers, stated that hip hop saved a lot of lives for inner city youth. Participating in hip hop culture became a way of dealing with the hardships of life as minorities within America, an outlet to deal with the risk of violence and the rise of gang culture. MC Kid Lucky mentions that people used to break dance against each other instead of fighting. Inspired by DJ Kool Herc, Africa Bambaataa created a street organization called Universal Zulu Nation, centered around hip hop as a means to draw teenagers out of gang life, drugs, and violence. So, hip hop at that time was the ability to be able to give a little bunch of rowdy ass teenagers something to do, right? It was something to keep them occupied and busy, right? Instead of getting caught up in violence or get caught up in drugs or anything that was going to put them in a situation with the law, they decided to do something that was very creative. All right. So this is Ronald Savage right here. there is some controversy going on regarding to African Bambaataa and Ronald Savage, which I'm not gonna get into much detail about, but um, it was said that that African Bambaataa allegedly, all right, we're just gonna say allegedly molested Ronald Savage and other hosts of young men. So that came out sometime a few years ago. So yeah, a couple of men came forward and said that Bambaataa allegedly molested them when they were young. And so there's more stories behind it. But again, I'm not going to get into much detail of that. So let's go ahead and continue. All right, so it says that he's the owner of the hip hop movement trademark and is credited for coining the term 6 elements of hip hop movement. Now that I didn't know that, but I do know now. Okay. So okay, so let's see, what else can we look at? Okay, so we're gonna look up some more information. So you had in the 1980s also saw many artists make social statement through hip hop. In 1982, Melly Mel and Duke Booty recorded the message, officially credited to Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, a song that foreshadowed the socially conscious statement of Run DMC. It's like that, and Public Enemy's Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos. During the 1980s, hip-hop also embraced the creation of rhythm by using the human body via the vocal percussion technique of beatboxing. Pioneers such as Dougie Fresh, Biz Markie, and Buffy from the Fat Boys made beats, rhyme, rhythm, and musical sound using their mouth, lips, tongue, voice, and other body parts. Human beatbox artists would also sing or imitate turntablism, scratching, or other instrument sounds. Okay. Let's see. So all right, let's go into the commercializing era. Well, no, before I go there, let's go into the graffiti. All right, so graffiti. All right, right here it says graffiti is the most controversial of hip hop elements. As a member of the most notable graffiti pioneers said that they do not consider graffiti to be an element of hip hop, including Lady Pink, Scene Blade, Fargo, Charlie Rock, Fuzz One, and Coco 144. Lady Pink said, "I don't think graffiti is hip hop. Frankly, I grew up with disco music. There's a lot of background of graffiti as an entity unto itself." And Fargo says there is no correlation between hip hop and graffiti. One has nothing to do with the other. Hip hop pioneer Grandmaster Flash has questioned the connection between hip hop and graffiti, saying, "You know what bugs me? They put hip hop with graffiti. How do they intertwine?" Well, I can tell you how they intertwine, because graffiti is the expression of the hip hop. It's the art of hip hop culture. That's all it is. It's just the art. It's the expression. So why not make graffiti a part of the hip hop? Why not? Okay, so it says in America, in the late 1960s, before hip hop, graffiti was used as a form of expression by political activists. In addition, gangs such as the Savage Skulls, La Familia Manchoana, and Savage Nomads used graffiti to mark territories. Julio 204 was a Puerto Rican graffiti writer, one of the first graffiti writers in New York City. He was a member of the Savage Skull gang and started writing his nickname in his neighborhood as early as 1968. In 1971, the New York Times published an article, Tacky 183 spawns pen pals, about another graffiti writer with a similar farm, Tacky 183. According to the article, Julio had been writing for a couple of years when Tacky began tagging his own name all around the city. Tacky also states in the article that Julio was busted and stopped. Writers following in the wake of Tacky and Tracy 168 would add their street number to their nickname, bomb cover a train with their work, and let the subway take it. And their fame, if it was impressive or simply pervasive enough, all city. Julio 204 never rose to Tacky's fame because Julio kept his tag localized to his own neighborhood. And so I put, okay, let me see. The first rap record was recorded in the late 60s by Pete Martin, called Here Comes the Judge. Google it. The second rap song was James Brown Said Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. Kool Herc in 1974 upgraded to hip hop. He reinvented the wheels and put a street spin on it and made it popular in the street and clubs. He made it into a cultural thing for blacks. Okay, so here's the thing. But you gotta remember, James Brown, his genre was not hip hop at that time. James Brown was considered as godfather of soul. So he was doing soul and funk. Okay. However, he did bring a lot of heavy influence into the hip hop music because a lot of the artists back then, they sample a lot of James Brown's music. And not only they sample his music, but also they were sampling people like Al Green. You know, you also got people like what's the other guy's name? I can't even think of his name right now. His name is gonna come to me. It's gonna come to me. But Gil Scott-Heron. So those artists influence people like DJ Kool Herc and Grandmaster Flash to be able to create this unique genre of hip hop. But at that time period, it wasn't called hip hop music because there was no such thing. Yeah, James Brown used his vocals and he talked over the instrument. That's all he did. So, but at the end of the day, he was still considered as godfather of soul. And I would have to look up Pete Martin because I don't know who that is. I have to look up the information about him. But we gotta remember, see, back then they did what was called the call and response. So the call and response, basically you talk to the audience and the audience responds back to you. And James Brown did a lot of that. You know, it was James Brown and the other guy, Rufus Thomas. What's his name? Pickett Wicked. Or Wicked Pickett, whatever his name is. It was so many of them back then that did a lot of that. But yeah, James Brown made it popular during his era. And then, you know, DJ Kool Herc and all the rest of them became influenced by James Brown. So yeah, let's go ahead and continue. All right. Okay, it says Phase 2 is an influential graffiti artist who began painting in the 1970s. All right, so I'm trying to see where I can find out the knowledge. Okay, so we're gonna get into the concept about the language of hip hop. All right. So Language. The development of hip hop linguistics is complex. Source material include the spirituals of slave arriving in the New World, Jamaican dub music, the laments of jazz and blues singers, pattern of Cockney slang, and radio DJs hyping their audience using rhymes. Hip hop has a distinctive association slang. It is also known by the alternate names such as Black English or Ebonics. Academics suggest its development stems from a rejection of the racial hierarchy of language, which held white English as the superior form of educated speech. Due to hip hop's commercial success in the late 1990s and early 2000s, many of these words have been assimilated into the cultural discourse of several different dialects across America and the world, and even to the non-hip hop fans. The word "this," for example, is particularly prolific. There are also a number of words which predate hip hop but are often associated with the culture. With homie being a notable example, sometimes terms like "what the dilly yo" are popularized by single song. In this case, "Put Your Hands Up Where My Eyes Could See" by Busta Rhymes, and are only used briefly. One particular example is the rule-based slang of Snoop Dogg and E40, who add "izzle" or "is" to the end of middle of words. Mhm. Hip hop lyrics have also been known for containing swear words. In particular, the word bitch is seen in countless songs from NWA. Bitch is a bitch. To Missy Elliott, she is a bitch. It is often used in a negative connotation of a woman who is a shadow money groper. Some female artists have tried to reclaim the word and use it as a term of empowerment. Regardless, the hip hop community has recently taken an interest in discussing the use of the word bitch and whether it is necessary in rap. Not only the particular words, but also the choice of which language in which rap is widely debated topic in international hip hop. In Canada, the use of non-standard variants of French, such as Falagas, a mix of French, Falagas, a mix of French and English by groups such as Dead Obies or Chias, such as Radio, has powerful symbolic implication for Canadian language politics and debates on Canadian identity. In the United States, rappers choose to rap in English, Spanish, or Spanglish, depending on okay. So let's look up the women in hip hop. How did they influence? All right, so let's look up women in the hip hop music. Okay, so we're gonna go up here, right? It says women artists have also been at the forefront of the hip hop movement since its inception in the Bronx. Nevertheless, as gangster rap became the dominant force in hip hop music, there were many songs with misogynistic, anti women lyric, and many music videos depicted women in a sexualized fashion. The negation of female voice and perspective is an issue that has come to defend mainstream hip hop music. The recording industry is less willing to back female artists than their male counterparts, and when it does back them, often it places emphasis on their sexuality over their musical substance and artistic abilities. Since the turn of the century, female hip hop artists have struggled to get mainstream attention. Yep, that was true. with only a few, such as older artists like the female duo Salt and Pepper, to more contemporary ones like Lil' Kim and Nicki Minaj reaching platinum status. Now, speaking of that, see, now women in the hip hop industry is gaining more recognition. So you got artists, female artists today that's really dominating, like Megan Thee Stallion, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, so many other hosts of women out there who I can't even think of. Yeah, they really taking over the industry right by now. You know, you got a little rapper named Mulatto. And as a matter of fact, Jermaine Dupri had a show. Okay, showing off the talents of kids from various parts of the United States, right? Nationwide. And they all come together and show off their freestyle skills and things of that nature. So I thought that show was very cool to have. But yes, they don't really mention much about women in the hip hop industry in this article, except that, you know, how it's very difficult for them to get the mainstream recognition, because at that time hip hop was a male dominated industry, and it's still male dominated, but you know, back then it was heavily dominated by men. So a lot of women could not earn popularity success on their own without the men in the background pushing them. You know, so Salt and Pepper would not be able to make it if it wasn't for the men introducing them. People like Yo Yo, she had Ice Cube, Queen Latifah, Lady of Rage had Snoop Dogg. Had Timberland. You know what I'm saying? So these female rappers, they would not have been popular without the men in their corner. Roxanne Shante, although she was doing a freestyle, but guess what? It was the men that was backing her up. See, if it wasn't for the men, Roxanne Shante would not have been recognized. She was like the queen of freestyle. She was one of the first female rappers to ever get on the radio and freestyle against a group called the UFO. And she was only 14 years old at the time. 14 years old. But she got played really bad on some real shit. Because, yeah, the record label that she was under, they did not pay her at all. And when she left the record label, I mean, she was able to go to school, get a degree or whatnot, but still, she wasn't even compensated for all the songs that she did. So, you know, it was pretty rough. A lot of artists didn't get paid a lot of money either. You gotta remember that we talking about in the 80s, they didn't get paid a whole lot of money. And the only way they was really getting paid was doing commercials, endorsements. That was about it. But outside of that, hip hop artists was not making a lot of money like they do today. And you still got some that ain't making any money. They can perpetrate like they rich and they got it going on, but they ain't really got the revenue. So, all right, let's go ahead and look at the commercialization. Speaking of that, all right. Now, check this out. In the early to mid 1980s, there wasn't an established hip hop music industry as it exists in the 2020s. With record labels, record producers, managers, and artists and repertoire, which is the A&R, right? Staff, politicians, and business people maligned and ignored hip-hop movement. Most hip-hop artists perform in their local communities and recorded in underground scenes. However, in the 1980s, a music industry executive realized that they could capitalize on the success of gangster rap. Keyword: music industry executives realized they could capitalize off of gangster rap. So they were making a lot more profit off of gangster rap music than any other form of rap. That's when and when they seen that gangster rap music was booming, was at the top of the chain, they was like, okay, this is where the money is at, right here in the gangster rap. Now it says they made a formula that created a totalitarian buffet of hypermasculinity and glorified violence. This type of rap was marketed to the new fan base, white males. Yeah, you heard that right. They ignored the depiction of a harsh reality to focus on the sex and violence involved. See, let me tell you something. For other ethnic group, right, it's a form of entertainment. Now, there are those who can relate to what we have been through, but for the most part, it's entertainment to them. But for us, African Americans, who listen to music that pertains to violence and sex or whatnot, we can relate to those things because that's what we really see in our community. That's what we around in our community: the drugs, the violence, the gang, the prostitution, all of that. But it has become to the point where it's been glorified versus being a story that's being told by an individual or people that come from those environments. It has been looked at for glorification. So now when since went from talking about what's going on and romance to bringing glorification of prostitution and whoredom. Gangsterism went from talking about gang life, story growing up in the streets, to bring about glorification of being a gangster and being violent. So yeah, and I'm gonna give y'all a little secret for those of you that may not know that the people that's really in control of the commercialized hip hop are mostly Jews. It's mostly the Jewish people that own a lot of these record labels. It's mostly the Jewish people that's making the most profit. Something to think about, right? In the article for the Village Voice, Greg Tate argues that the commercialization of hip hop is a negative and pervasive phenomenon, writing that what we call hip hop is now inseparable from what we call the hip hop industry, in which the nouveau riche and the super rich employers get richer. Ironically, this commercialization coincides with a decline in rap sales and pressure from critics of the genre. Even other musicians like Nas, KRS-One have claimed hip hop is dead, and that it has changed over years to cater to the consumer, that it has lost the essence for which it was originally created. All right. And then it goes on to say, however, in his book, In Search of Africa, Mentha Dawawa states that hip hop is really a voice of people who are marginalized in modern society. He argues that the worldwide spread of hip hop as a market revolution is actually global expression of poor people's desire for the good life, and that this struggle aligns with the nationalist struggle for citizenship and belonging, but also reveals the need to go beyond such struggles and celebrate the redemption of the Black individual through tradition. The problem may not be that female rappers do not have the same opportunities and recognition as their male counterparts. It may be that the music industry that is so defined by gender biases, industry executives seem to bet on the idea that men won't want to listen to female rappers, so they are given fewer opportunities. Now, back then, a lot of females rappers weren't really getting a lot of male fan base like that, but they was getting a lot of female fan base, but not a lot of male fan base. But now today, you got a lot of female rappers who getting a lot of fan base from both sides, and Megan Thee Stallion happened to be one of them. She's earning popularity on both sides, on both the males and the females. So it has changed over the period of time. Um, and then you even got billionaires in hip hop. The billionaires are like Puff Daddy, Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, even Kanye West. So many of them became billionaires over the decades. Um, yeah, and then you got those who became multimillionaires, Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, Nas. Yeah, they have made a lot of profit. So I want to play some music, but I can't do it due to the copyright issue. So I don't want to go through that. So I'm gonna show y'all some sources. Okay, that's what I like to do. I always like to bring up source. All right. So this source right here is called "The World Is Yours: A Brief History of Hip Hop Education" by Martha Diaz. All right, so so let's go down here where it says hip hop history. It says there were influential forces, however, that gave birth to hip hop culture. Between 1955 and 1968, the African American civil rights era spawned a social reform movement in the United States. Okay. Um. Yeah. Going back to what I was reading, there were other influential forces, however, that gave birth to hip hop culture. Between 1955 and 1968, the African American civil rights era spawned a social reform movement in the United States of mass protests, both violent and non-violent, boycotts and sit-ins. The iconic leaders of this era, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., and Bobby Kennedy, were assassinated in 1965 and 1968, respectively. Then it goes on to say by the mid 1970s, the most industrial movement eliminated 600,000 manufacturing jobs and 30,000 fires were set in the South Bronx alone. The city was bankrupt and schools lacked adequate funding and maintenance. The Black Panthers and the Young Lords, which was a Puerto Rican group or a Latino group, they was both a political organization, helped the community through breakfast program, garbage removal, and running newspaper operation. The organization were deeply influential in spreading black and brown power to the first hip hop generation, but found themselves competing against gangs, drugs, and President Nixon COINTELPRO counterintelligence program launched by the FBI to investigate and disrupt insurgents. All right. The Black Studies movement laid out a new time and territory, one of the contestations and new knowledge in the United States Academy. Black Studies combined the energies of the free speech movement, civil rights, black power, and general American concerns for a redistribution of the resources of knowledge production. Simultaneously, reggae music emerged from the crossfire of politics, uh, renegades, and poverty. From the World Black Liberation Song to the international peace anthems, Jamaican music would come to spark the resistance, ingenuity, competitiveness, and entrepreneurship traits within hip hop culture. And just as the griots performed in their West African oral tradition, the last poets – and Gil Scott Heron retold history through poetry and usher in spoken words movement and rap music genre of today. All right. All right. So it goes on to explain furthermore about the elements of hip hop culture. So it says hip hop culture was formed out of this energy of creativity, liberating struggle, and musical nessus. Hip hop is an art form, lifestyle, communication tool for human rights and peace rooted in ancient culture. It has many elements that shape its principle philosophy and aesthetic. Hip hop first started with the DJ, aka disc jockey, three forefathers, DJ Kool Herc, African Bambaataa, and Grandmaster Flash, set the standards for technique, style, and collection of records. The next element to evolve from hip hop culture was the MC, aka Master of Ceremony, the person who entertained the crowd through a call and response method that can be traced back to African cultures. We witnessed this type of musical exchange in Christian congregation, children rhymes, blues, jazz, and rhythm and blues. By far, MCing has become the most successful element, taking on different forms from spoken word to freestyle, improvisational to recording artistry. The graffiti element, visual art, aka aerosol art, can be linked to ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, where caves were filled with hieroglyphs to record natural and supernatural phenomena in the community. So, according to that article, basically there was a lot of West African influences in the hip hop culture, especially when it comes to folk folklore. I mean, excuse me, yeah, folklore and call and response. Also, when we talk about the graffiti influences come from the ancient Egyptian and Mesopotamia. So, due to the hieroglyphics, writings on the walls and stuff like that. That's the influence. So yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and let's see. Let's talk about the fifth element. All right. So the fifth element. Skip on down to here. It says the fifth element of the fifth element as education centered and self-reflective tool offers hopes, instill agency, and widens world perspective. Hip hop elements provide significant life and career building skills such as critical thinking. Okay. Yeah, the fifth element as an educational center and self-reflective tool offers hopes, instill agency, and widens world perspectives. Hip hop's element provides significant life and career building skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, self awareness, time management, and teamwork. Hip hop also inculcates self esteem, confidence, braggadocious, debate, and rebel fashion style, whether in the classroom, gymnasium, recreation center, the park, or at home. Hip hop culture is ubiquitous and locally accessible to youth culture. Hip hop pedagogy is used to bring out, construct, interpret, reflect, and build upon people's experience and challenges. Hip hop is also used in physical and mental therapy session, autism and special education classes, and traumatic rehabilitation therapy. For example, Dr. Adia Wilfries healing young people through empowerment programs connect psychology, hip hop culture, history, and collective experiences with oppression. Um, so so here it goes right here. Here's all the information. So from this article, and it's called "The World Is Your: A Brief History of Hip Hop Education" by Martha Diaz. So if you want to learn more, or if you want to know more information about it, just look into it. All right, it's a good article. So let's go ahead and go on to the next article. All right, so these are books actually. Okay. So the first book that I'm going to show you guys is called How to Rap: The Art and Science of Hip Hop MC. Okay. And it was written in 2009. All right. So these are the table of contents. Okay. Let's go down to the introduction. All right, so How to Rap teaches you the art and science of MCing through the words and lyrics of some of the most influential and respected MC of all time. From all ages of hip hop, over 100 MCing were interviewed exclusively for this book, including pioneers and contemporary MCs, mainstream and underground rappers. There is a complete list of all the interviews artists on page 315. As many different types of artists as possible were included to draw on their individual strengths, explaining everything from writing deep political lyrics to crafting chart topping choruses. Um, it says all the techniques, methods, and suggestions come directly from the artists themselves so that you can learn in the same way that all rappers have learned from other rappers. As Tech 9 says, study MCs, see what they do, then make your own. That's how everybody started. All the artists interviewed for How to Rap told a similar story of how they learned their craft by listening to other MCs, analyzing those artists' work, and constantly expanding their range of skills. All right, so dang. Here's a quote. It says, always continue to learn. Reading is a great way to intake information, and never think you're the best. You'll always have something to learn from someone. Murs. So that's an interesting quote right there. Yes, reading is very important, especially if you're trying to develop skills, because it helps you to be more articulated and be able to pick up better vocabulary words, and just be able to use words in more rhythmatic sense. So yes, reading plays the most essential part of rap. All right. Let's see. Okay, so let's look at some of the samples. All right, then. All right, so let's look at one example. Where it says content topics. So let's look at the one where it says, honestly, nothing is nothing without content, because a lot of rappers be flowing, but they ain't saying shit. I kick stories, I kick conscious shit, I kick braggadocio shit, freestyles, I kick everything to mess the visionaries. Hip hop song sometimes called subject matter includes every subject you talk about in your lyrics. Is what you're actually rapping about, rather than the rhythms and rhymes you're using, the flow, or how you're using your voice to perform or spit those rhythms and rhymes, the delivery. Hip hop artists tackle a huge range of content in their music. Anything you can think of become the subject of a hip hop track. So, for example, You got Will I Am from the Black Eyed Peas say topic come from anything and everything. Sometimes I rap about stuff from clubs. Sometimes I rap about the world. It just comes whatever inspires me. Okay, so it says some MCs like to stick to the topics they're most familiar with, while others cover a wide variety of subjects. Murs, for example, say I can write about anything. A challenge to me is you saying Murs, you in a room with a paperclip and a stripper. Make a song about it. Content will always vary from artist to artist. All right. So you got evidence from Dilated Rap Group. That's the dynamic of our group. We speak on a lot of different topics because as MCs, we're real different kinds of people. Rock from was it Heta Skelter? There have always been simple rappers, and there have always been complex rappers. There have always been party rappers. There have always been gangster rappers. There have always been a lot of different types of rap, and there's still a lot of different types of rap. And it says the content can give you a direction to take a song in. Paris says, I'll have a list of topics that I want to cover, and after I'm sure I've covered everything, I'll start composing the actual tracks. Most MCs like to have strong content because it helps them express themselves better as artists rather than just rhyming for the sake of rhyming. They agree that what you're saying is just as important as the way you're saying it with your flow and delivery. All right, so there's that information right there. Um, the book is called How to Rap: The Art and Science of Hip Hop MC. So you can look this up for yourself. All right, right here. And it's written by Paul Edwards. Okay. All right, this one is called Religion and Hip Hop. So people want to know, well, how does religion play an influence in the hip hop culture? Well, let's give an example. You got Islam, right? You have a lot of hip hop Muslims, for example. You got Christian hip hop, and then you got those who are in the conscious movement, like the Nation of Islam. Those who are in the Moorish conscious movement. Those who are 5%ers. Then you got some that start off as Nuwapians. Yeah, so it plays a vital role at. Ooh, my legs kick me. Oh. Okay. All right, so it's called Religion and Hip Hop. It was written by Monica R. Miller. Yep, that's the cover right there. All right, so let's look up the introduction real quick. It says the global and transnational ascendance of hip hop is with its multifarious cultural expression and multiple multiplicative practices from breakdance, beatboxing, rap, and graffiti to hip hop's body-based status and distinctive clothing has drawn wide-ranging attention, nostalgic political hopes, and expectation of a politicized hip hop nation, as well as a social pathologization grounded in a cultural depravity narratives are among the segments expressed by a by a range of success in recent years, including media outlets, faith-based institutions, and popular opinions. Um, then it goes on to say popular cultural topography is not flat or singular. Rather, there are a wide range of cultural landscape, some known and others always forming, similar to what cultural theorist Raymond Williams suggests in and through his model of cultural types. There are always at once dominant residential um, emerging cultural forms being destroyed and formed and produced, while most cultural formation emerge organically from groups and communities. That is not suggest that they are divorced from institutional elements or structures, but the formation of emergent culture does pose numerous challenges to dominant institution face with how to engage and understand particular cultural developments like hip hop culture. All right. So religion and hip hop brings hip hop cultural maladies, the demographic of youth, and the categories of religion in sustained and critical engagement. All right. So let's look at the first chapter. Let's see, that's something. Okay. Now, first chapter is dealing with scapegoats, boundaries, and blame. The civic face of hip hop culture. As you can see, there's the quotes. Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, so undeniably, the public face of hip hop culture has witnessed moments of great pathologization in American culture, from Bill Cosby's famous May 14, 2004 tirade on poor black people, black youth, and hip hop culture to Bill O'Reilly's a continual blaming of hip hop and rap music for black violence and crime to hip hop scapegoating witnessed during the 2007 Don Amos controversy, among a Lanty and other examples. Social criticism of hip hop is no stranger to public arena. Evolving intensely of hip hop criticism has recently motivated hip hop cultural workers to speak out more strongly in defense of their art form. In his new book, The Gospel of Hip Hop, the first instrument, 2009, rapper KRS-One make a strong point against the logic of disassociating the lives and the expression of hip hop artists from their heritage, as if there was some predetermined way black culture should be expressed. From the very beginnings of hip hop in the 1970s, critique KRS. We were always treated like aliens or outsiders who had to fend for themselves while being criticized along the way. The sad thing, though, is that outsiders are not studied or taken seriously at all, even if they are your children. That's deep. So let's go ahead and like I said, if you want to look up more information, that's the name of the book. It's called Religion and Hip Hop. Monica R. Miller. All right. So that's that. All right. And then there's another one. I'm going to come back to it. There's another one which is called Race Music, right? and it goes in Black Cultures from Bebop to Hip Hop by Guthrie P. Ramsey Jr. Okay. Okay, and this book was written in 2003. So let me. All right. So it says Scoring a Black Nation, music, film, and identity in the age of hip hop. So I'm gonna read these first four paragraphs. It says, we make our lives in identification with the text around us every day. Anahid Kasabian, hearing film track identification in contemporary Hollywood film music. All right, so it says in 1990s will be remembered as a boom decade for Black culture. One might say that, like new Negroes in the 1920s, African American performers were in vogue. By the century's end, Black expressive culture had become a pervasive factor in American society, fits indelibly to country's cultural profile. African American entertainers of all stripes are a commanding presence in the culture. In the post Cosby Show era, cable television serves up a steady diet of situation comedies starring African American cast who exaggerate performance, sometimes come dangerously close to worn out reliable stereotypes. Trumper and composer Wanton Marsalis, whose tireless efforts to put jazz on an equal social standing with Western art music has been recognized with the most important distinction and awards, including the prestigious Pulitzer Prize for Composition in 1997. It says we celebrate and reward Black sports figures such as basketball player Shaquille O'Neal with huge salaries, um, unprecedented media visibility, prestige, icon status, and power. The talk show diva Oprah Winfrey reigns over daytime programming. She attracts a diverse international audience and commands a paycheck that surpasses even NBA's MVPs. Whether executing a virtuoso instrumental passage or dunking basketball or chatting it up through tears and self-help philosophies or slack sticking through formatic situation comedies, the early 21st century Black performance is visible and getting paid. All right. So let me skip down some. It says Black musical styles show up routinely as topics in the cultural wars. Politicians of all persuasion have used the music to score rhetorical points with their various was it constitutions. Some comment on rap music on nihilism or debate whether it is music at all. Critics haggle over whether jazz is enjoying a renaissance it or is a dead art. The demise of the American family, the Angus of Black middle class citizens, juvenile delinquency, inner city decline, the commodification of Jesus' gospel on billboards, rhythm and blues charts, and many other indictments have been saddled to the back of Black popular music. All right. So just to read a little something right there to give you the idea. So basically, it goes in the origin how it started from the beatbox culture and how it ended up into the hip hop culture. So if you want to look up more information about that, just look up rap music. I mean race music. Okay, this is the name of the book, and that's the information. So with that being said, you guys, That's the history behind hip hop culture. So, with that being, and other than that, um, I'm gonna go ahead and call it a quits. I just wanted to do that. So I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Be safe out there. May peace and power elevation be to all of you. So this is your girl Tiffany coming through with the Black History as usual, and that's it. So I will talk to you guys later. Please take it easy on yourself and be safe. All right. Deuces and thank you. Stay humble and stay peaceful and be aware. All right. So I'm checking out 1212, checking out, closing out. That's the end. All right.